Hello and welcome. My name is Mel Sherwood, and for the past 10 years, I've been working with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and their teams, helping them to pitch and present with more confidence. In this series of interviews, I'll be in conversation with professional speakers at the top of their game. They will be sharing some of their journey to becoming a professional speaker and also some of their top tips to help you to become a better communicator. Now, back in 2017, today's guest made two courageous decisions. She launched her inclusion and belonging consultancy business and embraced her authentic self by undergoing gender transition. Leaving behind a 32-year IT career, she now ignites a fire for inclusion, belonging, and transgender awareness in organizations worldwide. Her mantra, smile, engage, educate, reflects her unwavering commitment to fostering understanding and empathy in our beautifully diverse world. She's also a fellow and chair of the board of the Professional Speaking Association in the UK and Ireland. And she's a highly sought after keynote conference speaker. I can't wait to hear more about her journey and her thoughts on what it takes to be a great presenter. So thank you so much for being here and welcome, Joanne Lockwood.
Thank you, Mel. What an intro. Did I write that or did you write that?
Bit of both. And I love that, actually. As a professional speaker, it is important to write your own intro generally and provide that. And a lot of people don't think about that because that's the start of it, isn't it? In terms of engaging the audience about what you do. So
sometimes I write these months ahead, or I have a stand-up one, and people are reading it out and sitting there going, I can't remember if I wrote that, but it sounds a bit like my words, but actually it sounds really good. Yeah, it's good.
Good. Well, 2017 is when it all started to change for you, but I'd love to know a bit further back and when you actually first stood in front of an audience to speak, and how was that experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, let's go all the way back to school, because I have this, like probably many of us, we have this sort of traumatic school experience. So yeah, I think I quite enjoyed the sort of the theatricals in the school. Yeah, we were doing a school play. I remember I got thrown out the school choir because I couldn't sing. It was quite embarrassing. The teacher sort of said, "Someone in this room is not singing in tune." And I remember them saying, "Okay, I want each of you to sing this line." And she went, "It's you, isn't it?" She pointed at me and she said, "I'm sorry, but you don't sing." So I've always been a non-singer, if you like. But anyway, I think I was probably about the age of, I don't know, I guess about 11 or 12. And I was into this sort of, I liked doing the amateur dramatics. I liked doing the school play. But then I guess it was when you hit puberty, I became self-aware. I became kind of conscious about myself. And I used to go bright red, and I used to get really freeze up about standing in front of an audience. And I remember I was doing this play once and I couldn't do it. I just felt so embarrassed. I could feel my cheeks glowing, and everyone around me said, "Are you okay? You've gone bright red." And from that point forward, I noticed in class, whenever I was asked to say something, I could feel myself go bright red. And that really put me off standing up in front of people, because I had this sort of like fear of going red and freezing. And that carried on through a lot of my adolescence, maybe into my 20s. And in my 20s, I joined an organisation, a men's organisation, as a house, called the Round Table, who have clubs all over the UK, Ireland, and the rest of the world. And that's quite a male banter environment. It's kind of a boardroom type environment where you have to give reports, you have to stand up. You've got senior members, more experienced members, some of them barristers, some of them solicitors, who are quite good at cutting people down, cross-examining them, making you feel quite small. Or people would often get the napkins off the table and wave them as a white flag if you were going on too long. So you got to know how to be really concise and deliver the message. And people were constantly chipping at you if you were being boring or droning on. So that was in my mid to late 20s. And I got kind of used to that kind of feudalistic speaking environment, talking over people, being heard, speaking authority. And I was in Round Table until my mid-40s, which is the age limit. And I was area chair. I was also the national president. So I got quite used to speaking in front of 700 people, turning up at a dinner, just talking in front of a room full of, I say strangers, they're friendly strangers. You know, we knew each other. They knew me. I didn't know them. So I got quite used to that kind of environment where I was doing after dinner speaking, a bit of amateur joke telling, a bit of state of the nation stuff, cut the ribbon, kiss the baby, you know, that kind of sort of head of an organization sort of thing. Chaired a few AGMs. So I got quite into that kind of speaking, and I knew I could speak, if you like, after dinner and to an organization. And also, you know, I ran my own business. I was used to stand up doing staff meetings, team meetings, to the teams, and motivated people that way. And I also was an IT consultant, and I ended up doing a lot of presentations to customers, standing up whiteboard, ideating, solution selling. So quite used to doing that kind of stuff. And I think a few events I even presented at some conferences or things as in the IT world. So when I gender transitioned, as you pointed out in 2017, I knew I could speak. I kind of overcome that fear of freezing, if you like, that going bright red. I didn't do that anymore. And I knew I could think on my feet. People said I was quite articulate and elegant and quite engaging in the way I spoke. But could I stand on a stage in a dress, talking to an audience about a topic that I'd only really, in the last month or two at the time, just got into? So I was transitioning my work, my career, my passion, and also my gender. The imposter syndrome in my head was immense. That who am I? What authority do I have to talk about being a woman and talking about being inclusion, belonging to HR professionals? People have been CIPD level 7 qualified for 20 years, fellows in the CIPD. What did I know? You know, this upstart, this IT professional, if you like, coming to talk about HR. So yeah, in those early days, it was really, really nerve-wracking. It's just when I came across the Professional Speaking Association, actually, and Toastmasters. And Toastmasters, I'll always give it credit for welcoming me as a person, making me feel really comfortable, putting me in a challenging environment, right into the stretch zone, week in, week out, doing speeches, timing, having to think on your feet, worrying about what other people thought of you and getting critiqued for that. So if you don't care what people think, it doesn't matter. But if you care, so that continued improvement. But the Professional Speaking Association, again, took it to another level. It was taking me from being someone who spoke in front of audience to someone who could earn a living at it. And that is a real difference. You know, there's a difference between telling a good story and telling a good story and getting paid and getting asked back again because they loved your story so much. And that was a real mind shift change in around 2017, 2018, that to get paid is different from just speaking.
So it's interesting that you went from that, you know, bright red, feeling totally uncomfortable about speaking, and now, you know, speaking all over the world and
yeah.
You know, feeling more comfortable. And I know if you're anything like me and most of the professional speakers I know, we still get a little bit of nerves, a bit of butterflies going on.
Yeah.
But how did you actually get from that, you know, red, awkward, couldn't speak at all? Was it just practice? Was it just putting yourself out of your comfort zone time and time again to learn and improve it? Or is there something else that you did alongside that?
I can't remember how I went from that bright red 11-year-old, 12-year-old to being a comfortable speaker. I don't remember when that felt, but even in my 20s, even when I was becoming more confident, I still had that brain trigger thinking, I'm going to go bright red, I'm really embarrassed, people are going to spot that I'm red. And I guess by getting up on your feet on maybe a twice a month basis in the round table environments, in other situations in the workplace, you just become comfortable doing it. You realize that you can do it. When you see people's eyes looking at your eyes, you've got the audience, you can tell people are engaged. You suddenly realize that you've got this. But you know, you say there about you develop this confidence as a professional speaker. I was at an event 2 weeks ago, and I don't think I was better prepared. I was a last minute stand-in. So on the Tuesday, they put a message out saying anybody available on Thursday. Our speakers dropped out, and then they contacted me directly and said, Joe, your name's been put forward. I said, yeah, London, okay. I finished a training course at 12:30. I can jump on a train. I can be with you at 3:30 to go on stage at 4. So it really was literally out the door, turn up, just caught the tail end of the speaker before me, which is never good because you don't get the vibe of the room. Because sometimes you just want to know what's going on and feel part of the audience. So I turned up really cold. I basically walked in, glass of water, mic'd up, standing in the wings, Joe's on, sort of thing. So as I was standing in the wings, I had my fight, flight, and freeze kick in big time. The person before me was talk about workplace planning of the future from AstraZeneca. Real guru, data, slides, real expert. And the room I was talking to were talent acquisition specialists, recruiters, hiring managers from large corporates all over the UK. So again, what is little old me going to be telling these highfalutin talent acquisition specialists? So I was standing there going, oh, this guy's blowing everybody away with stats, data, workplace planning. I thought there's some really good stuff in there as well. I thought, what do I know? And worse still, the slide deck I'd given them, I kind of cobbled it together from lots of other talks. And I was determined, because a lot of what I did, like most of us did over COVID, you're sitting here and you've got your slide deck in front of you. And you tended to have more bullet points because they were right in front of you. The audience wanted to read them as well. And as you know, there's a certain pride in professional speaking. It's not about the slide deck, it's about you. So I decided to just go for pictures and a couple of words on each slide, which there's no comfort blanket in that. You've got to kind of know what you're going. So I was thinking, God, do I know the flow? Am I going to get this? All the stuff was going on in my head. I've got too many slides. I've got too few slides. So I'm standing there waiting for my name to be called out. And I was literally going to go, I can't do this. So it's the closest I've been in a long time to go, I can't do this. And then they call my name up. I take 2 steps. I grab the water, have a sip, walk into the middle of the stage. And I just stood there looking at people going, yeah, I've got this. And then the first words come out of your mouth. And as soon as, I don't know about you, but as soon as you said the first sentence, you're in there, you've got it. And you go in with that grab, people leaning into you.
Yeah.
I go for the hook, and then, by the time I came off, round of applause, people are hugging me off, just go, wow, best speaker of the day. It's like, done it.
So that's really interesting. And I think that the thing is, it puts people off, and a lot of clients come to me because they literally are petrified and they do go red, and it's the fear of that. And as you say, and most of my clients as well, I'm generally okay once I get started, and it's the fear and that avoiding opportunities really to present themselves or their ideas or whatever, and they're really losing out by doing that. Particularly, people in business who have businesses for themselves, presenting and public speaking is a really great way to get the message out there about who you are. So obviously we don't get better at anything without practice. So it sounds to me like getting in front of audiences on a regular basis and getting out of your comfort zone has really helped you hone your skills. One thing I wanted to pick up on is you mentioned, those first words that came out of your mouth and you hooked them in. What's your advice in regard to actually doing that and really engaging an audience and hooking them in right from the beginning?
I think one of the things I've learned from the PSA and other seasoned speakers, as you say, is you've got to own that stage in the first 3 or 4 seconds. You've really got to take command. So many people make the mistake of thanking the MC or apologizing for something, or something comes out of their mouth. And you think, you've just blown it. You've lost the audience. You've said something not relevant. So I would call it, I just chuck a grenade into the audience, that sort of like that challenge, that don't you think, or really, just a really sort of like a thinking type statement. And then you let it hang. You've got to be comfortable with silence. You've got to kind of rhetorically throw that question out there and just look at them and, just absorb the room. And you could feel people leaning into you. You could feel people waiting for the next word. And someone used the phrase ruminate, which I think is a great word. You have to let people ruminate on your words. Because if you speak too quickly, they don't get the chance to absorb what you're saying. So those pauses you can bring into it, get people going, oh, what's next? So I think that's really the technique for that opening minute or that opening phrase. And that could be a minute, it could be 3 minutes, it could be 5, it could even be 10.
Mm.
And I've done this where I've gone on a stage thinking I've no idea what I'm going to say. And then I look at the clock, I think, blimey, that's 10 minutes already. I've only got 5 to go. Okay, well, that's easy. It's just downhill now. All I've got to do is
Yeah.
get my key point across and give them a call to action at the end. Job done.
Yep.
Thank you. So
Great. Yeah. No, I think the power of the pause is something that a lot of speakers miss, or certainly beginner speakers, because of the nerves and the adrenaline, and we know what happens, that is all flooding through our system, and we speak more quickly. And a lot of people actually will stand in front of an audience and just want to get it over and done with as quickly as possible. And so they're losing that opportunity to really engage that audience and draw them in by the silences. So the power of the pause is that's such a brilliant piece of advice, and especially early on, throwing that hook in, or that grenade, as you say, and just waiting and having the confidence to just trust and connect with people as that's happening, and they're processing that. I love that. So
there is another secret as well.
What's that?
Don't tell anybody. I don't always know what I'm going to say next. Sometimes I am literally talking from the straight out.
Yeah.
And so sometimes by pausing, it allows me to think, okay, where am I going with this? What's my plan from here? So I know, I go in with sort of an opening idea, the challenge, the protagonization, or whatever it is, the agitation at the beginning. Then I want to sort of talk about the problem and all this. And I've got to leave solutions and takeaways. So I know where I'm trying to land the plane. I know where I'm orbiting, and I've got to get up to that point. So I know where I'm going with it, but I don't always know what I'm going to say until I say it, because I've got all these I've got some stats, I've got a story, I've got some information, and I've got all this stuff I've prepared, and I know that not all of it's going to come out, but I know that I've got enough in there that I can. If someone smiles at me when I'm talking, I start talking to them. And when I'm looking at them and talking to them, the next thing pops into my head. So by having those pauses allows me to constantly replan my journey of the story I'm telling. Do I need to bring it back on, or can I carry on going? How much time have I got left? So I'm not which is one thing I found about Toastmasters, was they kept wanting to have a prepared speech. And I won the prepared speech competition so many times. I said, look, I feel a real fraud. I've never prepared a speech in my life. I've prepared a beginning, a middle, and an end. But how I get there is really whoever smiles at me at the time directs my train of thought. But I guess that's being a thought leader, subject matter expert, because you've got that breadth of material, that library of thought. And I just know that when I'm on stage, I can access that repertoire. And that's where I think some of my fear comes in, because I'm worried, will I be able to flick through the right page in my brain and get it out at the right moment?
Yeah.
That's
an incredible skill. A lot of people are really fearful of that, and do go along the lines of those pre-prepared speeches. And just for anyone listening and watching who doesn't know what Toastmasters is, it's a worldwide organization supporting people to improve their public speaking and leadership skills. And there are clubs all over the world, lots and lots in the UK. And it's very formulaic, I suppose, and there's lots of opportunities to learn, but everything is evaluated, and there's lots of support and encouragement, lots of clapping and whatever. So I actually had the experience of Toastmasters as well, and it sort of led me onto my speaking career, interestingly enough. And so, yeah, I think in terms of an organization that's really supportive and gives you that opportunity to get in front of audiences time and time again and build your confidence, absolutely highly recommend it. But it is, there's a certain style and approach there. With the prepared speeches is very different, and they do table topics, which is the impromptu speaking. But yeah, for someone who can actually go into an environment in front of an audience and to be able to just trust that the right things will come out at the right time, that's a pretty incredible skill, Joanne. And
it's a scary skill.
Yeah, but the thing is, you trust, and it's not, so I talk a lot about preparation. And I think I personally like to know those first few lines. I want to know what I'm going to say at the beginning, and I want to know what I'm going to say at the end. And with a background as an actor, my preferred is a script and a, prepared speech. But I've realized that that doesn't engage audiences. I can perform a speech and, it'll be very slick, but it loses the essence of who I am. And that really, that authenticity and that spontaneity. So, but I'm someone who really likes to prepare certainly the beginning and the end, so that I know I can start confidently and finish confidently. And then it's that bit in the middle that is, a bit more free flowing. But for someone, who to just go and stand in front of an audience and not be sure of the first words you're going to say, that's an impressive skill. But
and that's genuine.
Your knowledge, isn't it?
I'm not just being modest or anything like that. I have stood in the wings and people said, "You've got this." I said, "I know." And they say, "You've got your opening line." I said, "No, I haven't. I've got 3 or 4 things in my head. I haven't really decided as yet." This is 30 seconds before going on, which one's going to come out my mouth first. Yeah. And literally, as I stand there, I look at the audience, and that moment of pause, that owning the stage, just making sure that you've got this. And then something just happens and it comes out.
That's
and
connection,
you
isn't
follow
it?
You follow it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, it's not like you haven't prepared anything.
No.
You've got an idea of very different things that might come out.
I've got years of experience, and I know my topic, and I pride myself on. I hate calling myself a thought leader, because I don't think other people can call me that. So the topic I speak on, I nudge people and jolt people into different ways of thinking. So that's all in there, and I know that I've just got to be myself. And I often like watching the recordings back, because I can't remember what I've just said.
Yeah.
So if you interview me, I can't remember the first things we talked about in this conversation. So I tend to be I don't retain anything I'm saying often in my memory. And I did a TV documentary over a 3-year period back in 2016 for 3 years. And I said, I always had this agreement with the film crew that if they wanted me to repeat my lines or what I've just said, they'd have to give me a what did I just say?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have to start again. I have to do that run up and get back into it. But play it back. What does? Oh yeah, okay, I'm with that now. Okay, wind back a little bit. Right, I'm ready to go again. Yeah, I would never remember what I've just said.
Yeah, I think that just shows that you're fully in the moment and connected with people, which is just a lovely quality. One of the things I wanted to ask you, obviously, some of the things that you talk about are, challenging people's biases and that kind of thing. What's your approach in terms of getting that audience on side?
Well, I suppose people have asked me this before. What's my objective of going on stage? And as a speaker, the objective is to enlighten, to inspire. It's all about the audience. We're there to entertain, to inspire, to educate, whatever we're trying to do. We're trying to change someone's thinking from this to that. It's effectively what we are as speakers, to educate them in a way to think differently. So my objective when I get on stage is for that. And I also have a couple of other objectives. Is I want someone to come up to me afterwards and say, "Can I give you a hug? That was amazing." So I always go, I want someone to come up and hug me and say, "That was amazing. Wow, Joe, and you blew me away. Best speaker of the day." So those are kind of the words I want said back to me. So when I get on stage, that's how I'm going into the event to get that outcome. I'm not going in for it for any less. So which means you're going to get all of me. I'm going to unpack everything I've got, every bit of energy I've got to deliver to that point where, wow, that was amazing. So that helps me get into the zone, because that's my outcome. I want the audience to feel that way. I want people to come up to me and connect on me on LinkedIn, refer me to their colleagues, or pass my name on, which is why I don't sell from stage. I sell from stage by being the best me I can.
Yeah.
And people want to share that.
Yeah, I think that you've touched on a really good point in terms of, it is all about the audience. And I'm the same. I give every ounce of myself when I'm in front of an audience. And I think that really elevates a presentation or a speech to the next level. If you're just there because you have to be, or there because you want to have to report something or whatever, I think there's a slightly different approach when you are a professional speaker and you're wanting to inspire and educate and entertain and whatever, versus you have to do a presentation for your work in front of you.
Yes, that's right. It's different, yeah.
Having said that, there's no difference in terms of it's all about the audience. You still have to tailor everything that you do towards that audience and towards helping them understand and receive the message that you're trying to deliver. And a lot of people, when they first start a presentation, they say, oh, well, what do I want to tell them? And they start with themselves rather than actually who is that audience and how can I best serve that audience and to achieve my own objective, because we obviously need to be clear on the objective. If we're not, our audience never will be. So yeah, that's really interesting. So
but that's the MC's job, isn't it? The MC's job is to introduce me. If the MC has done their job properly, I don't need to say anything about me.
Correct.
I just come on and follow on through it. You know who I am, you know my authority, you know why I'm here. I'm just now going to grab you and carry on.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to get that introduction right. And we talked about that earlier, where, you know, if as a professional speaker, you provide an introduction for the MC. Sometimes we're not always the MC. Sometimes we don't always have an MC, and sometimes we are the MC, depending on the circumstances. One of the things I wanted to ask you, how do you handle it when there's unexpected interruptions? Have you ever had an experience where something really unexpected has happened during a presentation or a speech?
I was speaking at International Women's Day this year, and just before we were all getting mic'd up in the green room at the back, and the fire alarm went off. And normally you just go, oh yeah, fire alarm. And everyone's going, well, it's not on the hour, it's not on the half hour, it's kind of like 26 minutes past 2 or something. It's like, Then someone came and said, no, it's a fire alarm. You need to get out of the building now. And I thought, hang on a minute, this is my zone time. This is my getting into the place. And as you came out of the building, as the green room, there was a smoky smell. And what happened is someone left a lithium-ion battery in their coat pocket in the cloak cupboard, and the lithium-ion battery, maybe it was charging a phone, caught fire, and there was people with fire extinguishers putting out this coat. It was like, and so the entire audience of 250 people and all the speakers and the entire building it was in were all evacuated onto the street in the pouring rain. So it's like, yeah,
not
perfect nightmare. Hair, makeup, dress, prep time. So yeah, I mean that was like a blitz spirit, because everybody in the audience was kind of involved in this. So when we got back in, there was a few. I think when the MC stood up at the beginning and said, "There are no planned fire alarms. We've had the only test of it, so you know where you're going if it does go off." In the middle of an event, I don't think I've actually had I've had some events where the mic packs up, or that they put a mic pack on, they've turned it off because you get it on, have it on 2 hours early or something. You've been wearing it around, and then suddenly someone rushes out and either hands you a mic or fiddles with you and turns it on again. So I've had a few times like that. Or I guess you just got to acknowledge it, roll with it, joke about it, and whatever. And you know, where was I? Okay, I was there again. Try and get that run up again. But you just got to kind of just got to try and roll with it and not get upset.
I love that "where was I" question. I've got a bit of menopausal brain fog, so sometimes I do actually forget where I am, and I'm known to ask the audience sometimes, "What was I saying?" and get me back on track, and then I'm fine. But that's what people fear, you know, forgetting what they're going to say or whatever. And I think if you build a rapport with the audience, they're keen to support you, and so. When you've gone through an experience like you've been evacuated together or whatever, then there is that shared experience again, and so it all adds to the whole experience, really, doesn't it? All right, so I've just got only like a couple of things to ask you. One is have you got a favorite speech or presenter, and why? Why does someone, is there anyone who's you, and why is that?
I mean, we all see many people speak as professional speakers. We're obviously in a room with other people before us, afterwards. I remember I was at an event where the late Duke of Edinburgh, he spoke, He was the patron of the round table, and he came to the 40th in his youth, if you like, and then he was at the 80th. And he stood up and spoke. And someone said afterwards he spoke for only 3.5 minutes. And I thought, wow, there's a lot in that 3.5 minutes. It didn't need to be longer. So you can say a lot in a short time if you've got the right impact, you've got the right engagement. So I think we don't have to speak for 45 minutes. I suppose, like many professional speakers, because it's your craft, you analyze and deconstruct other people speaking, not necessarily what they're saying, but how they're saying it, their stagecraft, just their audience engagement, how they're reacting, how the audience are reacting to them. So I suppose I'm always analyzing other people's delivery, not to a point where I'm in awe of them, but just, well, I like a bit of that, I like a bit of that, and I wouldn't do it that way. And so, yeah, I suppose I'm a constant fangirl of every speaker to try and absorb the best bits, if you like.
Yeah, that's kind of my approach as well. So thank you for sharing that. So have you got any advice for someone who's looking to improve their presentation skills or indeed become a professional speaker?
Well, the first bit of advice I was given was just put it on your LinkedIn profile and go for it. The more you speak, the more
I am a professional speaker.
The more you speak, the more you speak. We can get into this everlasting debate of whether you should speak for free. What is free? Is it investment? I think I always tell people the story about, when I went to see the Freddie Mercury Queen story film, how it brought home to me that you have to start off playing gigs in backstreet pubs where you carry your own amp, your own drums, your own guitar. You sit up in the corner, you plug it in yourself, and then you're playing away and nobody's listening. If they are listening, they're heckling you, they're throwing bread rolls at you. You've kind of got to do that apprenticeship, that hard graft. Like stand-up comedians, they play some tough gigs before they get anywhere. I think as a speaker, I did a lot of that BNI, breakfast meetings, just getting out there. Because the more you speak, the better you speak, and you're going to speak more, you become more confident. So nobody's an overnight success. Not truly. It's always based on the years and years of experience. And I think as a speaker, there's so much to think about. In order to be relaxed, authentic, engage with audiences, be interesting, be bookable, be expensive. I think being expensive is a good skill as well. You have to have that breadth and depth of experience. You have to build that personal brand up. People have to go, oh, wow, I've been waiting to see Joanne speak for years. Oh, she's here.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come quickly. Sometimes it's a bit kind of pinch myself, really. How did I get here? One thing I was going to think about earlier when we were talking is, one thing I did at the beginning was I did a lot of podcasting, interviews like this. People invited me onto their show. I also did the TV documentary which was 3 years. So I've been used to having someone stick a camera in my face or a microphone in me. And I get used to people asking me the question, how do you feel? What's going on in your life? So all those little sound bites are kind of stored away. And I know what people are going to ask. So you kind of get a feel for it. So you build up this repertoire of answers and stories, which means that I actually quite enjoy doing panels. In fact, I try and upsell my customers and my clients to a panel, because it means I just got to turn up, sit on a chair, and let them ask me questions. I don't have to do any prep. I never read the questions they send me, because I have confidence I'll be able to answer them in the moment. But that gives me that reassurance. So when I'm speaking on stage, I've got that repertoire. I've practiced that repertoire. I know what's in there, and I know this kind of the depth behind those statements. So I think if as an aspiring speaker, get on podcasts, guest on other people's podcasts. Once you're confident with that, be a podcast host, because that teaches you to listen to your guest. It teaches you to think ahead to the next question, to how to keep that conversation going, to show that rapport. So I think that's a great skill to have, as being a host and being a guest. And don't shy away from those, because if you want to be an authority, you want to be a thought leader, because that's what we want to be. We want people to pay us for what we think. Practice that authority type accent. If you haven't got a book, I don't have a book, but I think panels are a great way of engaging you as an authority. So I think get into panels, get into podcasts.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much for your time today. How can people find out more about you if they want to book you as a speaker or find out more about what you do?
I never thought you'd ask. So LinkedIn's always a good place. So if you look for Joanne Lockwood, I think linkedin.com/in/Joe Lockwood, I think is my handle on the URL. Or Google Joanne Lockwood. I come up pretty extensively on the first 3 or 4 pages of Google, or my website is seechangehappen.co.uk. That's SEE changehappen.co.uk.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I'll make sure that those details are included with this recording as well. I really appreciate your time today. That has been amazing, such valuable information and tips, and I loved hearing about your experiences. So thank you again for spending time with me.
Thanks, Mel. Really enjoyed it. Catch you soon.